and this of the innumerable gifts that are going to offer to the sentient beings today. This is the greatest gift that we've given. This is the best of the gift. And of all the innumerable offerings, this is the best of offerings that we can think of to offer all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas today. This is amazing. Let us not forget this day throughout our life. Let us always remember this, and this should be the inspiration for us to make a day more bright, more meaningful for all eternal sentient beings. And this is all happening because of the kindness of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. As a gesture of thanking all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, again, along with all eternal sentient beings, let us make 3 prostrations together to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Okay, please take your seats. And page 51. So this practice, which is so precious, and particularly say once having connected with this teaching, and then say we come in, say the constant touch with the Dharma practice, study, reflection, and there are so many practices, so many kinds of practices. For example, say the breathing meditation, then the tantric practice, then the awareness meditation, and then the Buddha image meditation, the meditation nature of the mind, then the meditation on the chakras and so forth. There are so many meditations, and we see that what we are doing now, that is like the essence, the fabric of all the meditations. Particularly once you see the value of this, and you continue to do any kind of practices, we see that this is the essence, this is the fabric. With this, all other meditations will make sense. You'll find all the meditations very meaningful, and we see that this is, without this, all other meditations, all the efforts are not really cost effective. Whereas with this practice, all other meditations that you do, they become so meaningful, they are so precious. So for them, it is for this reason that the Bodhisattvas, particularly the advanced Bodhisattvas, very sophisticated Bodhisattvas, so for them, having this as the fabric of the being, even the breath, even a single breath is for the benefit of beings. So every action that you do becomes so meaningful. This is what is meant by cost effectiveness of your efforts. Okay, but what about future life? Future life, shall we be meeting with this? How can we guarantee this amazing practice, amazing the mindset and the practice? How can I guarantee that I will meet with this teaching, the practice in the next life? So, to connect with such practices, we have to include prayers, and to be driven by this practice, we should feel the joy over this practice consistently. So, for that matter, we do on the page 51, the stanza, trees wholeheartedly pray this, and all you are inspiring all sentient beings to do the same. All the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they're watching us, particularly the Buddha Shakyamuni. And his Holiness the Dalai Lama. throughout my future lifetimes, may I always be guided by the compassionate Buddha and be able to uphold the true precious Bodhichittas even at the cost of my life. Throughout my future lifetimes, may I always be guided by the compassionate Buddha and be able to uphold the true precious Bodhichittas even at the cost of my life. Throughout my future lifetimes, may I always be guided by the compassionate Buddha and be able to uphold the true precious Bodhichittas even at the cost of my life. Now to feel the joy. In order to further increase this bodhicitta from now on, those with discernment who have lucidly seized and awakened the mind of bodhicitta in this way should highly praise in the following manner. Today my life has borne fruit. Having well obtained this human existence, I have been born in the family of the Buddha, and now I am one of Buddha's children. Thus whatever actions that I do from now on must be in accord with the family. Never shall I disgrace or pollute this noble and unsullied traits. Just like a blind person discovering a jewel in the heap of rubbish, while likewise by some coincidence an awakening mind has been born within me. It is the supreme ambrosia that overcomes the sorrow of death. It is the inexhaustible treasure that eliminates all poverty in the world. It is the supreme vehicle of medicine that quells the world's disease. It is the tree that shelters all beings wandering and tired on the path of conditioned existence. It is the universal bridge that leads to freedom from unhappy states of birth. It is the dawning morn of the mind that dispels the torment of disturbing conceptions. It is the great sun that finally removes the misty ignorance of the world. It is the conditioned for all those guests traveling on the path of conditioned existence who wish to experience the boundless happiness. This will satisfy them with joy, and it should place them in supreme bliss. Today, in the presence of all the protectors, I invite the world to be guests at a festival of temporary and ultimate delight. May gods, demigods, and all be joyful. Okay, let us pray. I dedicate the merit thus gathered towards the realization of the decent prayers of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the three times, and to the uphold of the doctrine, scripture, and inside. May in all lives, through the force of this merit, never separate from the full wheels of the mind and vehicle, and accomplish all the stages of the path, renunciation, bodhicitta, perfectly in the two stages. From my two collections, past the space that I have amassed, from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time, may I become the chief living Buddha for all those whose minds wisdom are blinded by ignorance.
These two diagrams in the book.
Yes.
I've seen it all over the monasteries, but I never understood the meaning.
Okay.
This one and that the snake.
Not snake, it's a path.
Sorry.
Yes, this is the path. Yeah. This path of shamatha.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so this I will not go through. This, if you are interested, you can visit www.bodhiwisdom.org. So there you will get the explanation of this teaching is there. You can freely download all the teachings there. And the other one, this one, the Wheel of Life, that we'll quickly do. That we'll quickly do in one of the sessions.
Thank you.
And the Narimanji will remind me.
Sure, sure.
Yes. Tirtha Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhiswadhyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhiswadhyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Samgate Bodhisvaha Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate 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 Bodhisvaha. Okay. Aranigarjuna, in his Bodhichitta Vivarana, commentary on Bodhichitta. So there, Aranigarjuna said that those who see the emptiness of intrinsic reality also and yet conform to the law of karma, there is the amazing of all amazements, and there is wonder of all wonders. Let me say this again. Aranigarjuna in his text, Bodhichitta Vivarana, commentary on Bodhichitta, he said, those who see the emptiness of intrinsic reality and yet conform to the law of karma is the wonder of all the wonders, and is the, what do you say? Is the amazement of all the amazements, right? Okay, so the what Aranigarjuna is saying is that it is in this book. In this book, it is there. What Aranigarjuna is saying is that to see the conformity between the two things, emptiness on the one hand, and the functional world, So when you speak about emptiness, some people they go to the extreme of saying that the world does not exist, nothing really exists there, it's just everything's empty, just body mind. This is one extreme of nihilism. And then who conform to the functionality, they say their emptiness makes no sense. So they go to the extreme of absolutism. So these two are the two extremes. Whereas Aranigarjuna says that if you study emptiness, reflect on emptiness, and then at the same time, if you tend to reject the functionality, you're going into nihilism. This is not emptiness. So the real understanding of emptiness is where you understand emptiness, meanwhile, so because of your understanding emptiness, you conform to the law of karma more. You respect the law of karma more. The more you start respecting the law of karma, more you start seeing the efficacy of the law of karma. That is what he says as the true understanding of emptiness. So, how can that be possible? To see the emptiness experience and the confidence in the law of karma to be seen as compatible. How the two things to be seen as compatible is on the understanding of the following points. One, two questions. Number one, do things exist? Do things exist? If you say no, or in Buddhism nothing exists, everything is mental impurity, nothing exists. If this is the connotation, if this is how you understand it, you are falling into nihilism. So the first question, do things exist? The answer should be yes, everything exists. If you say yes, everything exists, you are safe from nihilism. Okay, then the second question. If you say yes to the first question, yes, do things do exist, then the second question, do things exist objectively? To this question, the answer is no. Only then you get to understand things as the emptiness. The first question is, do things exist? Number two is, do things exist objectively? Okay. So for the first question, if the answer is no, you fall into nihilism. So the answer should be yes. Only if you say yes, then you are eligible to give the answer to the second question. And the second question is, do things exist objectively? What's the answer? No. To the second question, if you give the answer yes, you fall into absolutism. So to avoid the two extremes, you say that yes, things do exist. Though they don't exist objectively, things still do exist. They don't exist objectively means you are free from absolutism, and things still do exist. You're free from nihilism. Okay, so how can you see these two things? They say yes to the first question, say no to the second question. How can you say this in a very compatible, in a very consistent way? Is only if you understand emptiness to mean dependent origination, and the dependent origination to mean middle way. Only if you understand in that form, then you can bridge the two, the compatibility between the functional world and the emptiness concept. Okay, what do we, how to bring this these two in conformity is through seeing emptiness in the light of dependent origination, and dependent origination in the light of the middle way. Right? Okay, the first, how can we see emptiness in the light of dependent origination? Question number one. Question number two, how can we see dependent origination in the light of middle way? Two. Once these two are solved, then the point that emptiness therefore means the middle way, it does not mean nothingness. Right? Middle way means that you can conform to the functionality of the world. At the same time, you don't have to objectify things. You can see the emptiness of the objectification. Okay. So the two questions. What are the two questions? First one is how to see emptiness in the light of dependent origination. Okay, for this we need to know the 5 points. For this we need to know the 5 points. How to see emptiness in the light of dependent origination, we need to know 5 points. Okay, the 5 points, we must be convinced of that. First, emptiness. First, point 1 is emptiness. And point 2, emptiness is a short form of emptiness of independent existence. Okay, they say we speak about WHO. WHO is what? Who? Right? WHO is who, but then we should not interpret that as who, right? It should be interpreted as a short form of World Health Organization. Likewise, emptiness should not be taken as literally. It is a short form of emptiness of independent existence, emptiness of objective existence, emptiness of independent existence. Okay, point number 1 is emptiness. Point number 2 is that emptiness is a short form of emptiness of independent existence. Okay, point number 3. Emptiness of independent existence means nothing exists independently. You agree with me? When we say emptiness of independent existence means nothing exists independently. That's number 3. Nothing exists independently means number 4. Nothing exists independently means everything exists. Everything exists. Everything exists by dependence. Very good. Okay. So number 3, nothing exists independently means number 4. Everything exists by dependence. This is number 4. Okay, everything exists by dependent means number 5. Everything is dependently originated. Dependently originated. Dependently existent, dependently originated. Right? So therefore, emptiness means dependent origination. Now, question number 1 is answered. Question number 2. What's question number 2?
How do we see dependent origination in the middle?
How do we see dependent origination to mean the middle way? Right? Dependent origination has 2 sides, dependence and origination. 2. Dependence, the first one, dependence. Dependence, what's the opposite of dependence? Independence. When you say dependence, it rejects independence. Independence and absolutism, they mean the same. Right? So that is absolute, that is independent. Independence and absolutism mean the same. So when you say dependence, it rejects absolutism, it rejects independence. So by the first part, dependence, it rejects the extreme of absolutism. And the second part, origination. When you speak about origination, origination means something comes into origination. Something comes into existence. What's the opposite of existence? Non-existence. Okay. When you say origination, it rejects non-existence. Non-existence and nihilism mean the same. With origination, non-existence or nihilism is rejected. With origination, the extreme of nihilism is rejected. So now we see that dependence, the extreme of absolutism is rejected. Origination, the extreme of nihilism is rejected. Okay, on the extreme of absolutism, just for your information, the same meaning, extreme of absolutism, it has various vocabularies. Extreme of absolutism, extreme of permanence, extreme of existence, they all mean the same. And some people also translate it as extreme of eternalism. Okay, these all mean the same. Let me say this again. Extreme of absolutism, extreme of permanence, extreme of existence, and extreme of eternalism. They all mean the same. It's a matter of translation. Not only translation, even in Tibetan, there are some these different vocabularies used, and in English, in future, if you do see the mention of extreme of permanence, extreme of the word absolutism, extreme of existence, extreme of eternalism, they all mean the same. Right? Okay. Now the other side, extreme of nihilism. So, as opposed to the nihilism, what? Absolutism, and as opposed to the extreme of permanence and extreme of the opposite, extreme of permanence and extreme of impermanence. Exactly. So therefore, extreme of nihilism, there are some vocabularies. Extreme of impermanence also there. As opposed to extreme of permanence, extreme of impermanence. Extreme of absolutism, extreme of nihilism. Then extreme of existence, extreme of non-existence. Then extreme of eternalism, permanence, same. Extreme of nihilism. Right? So these vocabularies we have to keep in mind. Impermanence and extreme of impermanence, these two are different. Impermanence and extreme of impermanence, these two are different. Permanence and extreme of permanence, these two are different. You're getting it? Okay. These vocabularies we should not miss. Okay, now we see that dependent, when it's dependent origination, the first part dependent, it rejects the extreme of absolutism. Very good. Origination, it rejects the extreme of nihilism. Combining, bringing them together, dependent origin, bringing them together, rejects the two extremes. Rejecting the two extremes following the middle way. Right? Okay. So this is how we see that the emptiness means the dependent origination, one, and the dependent origin means the middle way. Therefore, bringing these two sets together, emptiness means the middle way, not nihilism. You getting it? Okay. Now, having done this, the next, what exactly is emptiness? What exactly is emptiness? For that matter, we have to study what is known as the four essentials. Four essentials to establish emptiness. Four essentials to establish emptiness. Four essentials to establish emptiness. Okay, the first one. Naramanji, don't you feel cold?
No.
Are you sure?
Better.
Yes, that's better.
Thank you, sir.
You can pull it
Thank
aside a
you,
little
sir.
bit, you can pull the chairs a little bit.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Still.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you so
Yes. Okay.
Compassion. Sincere example of compassion for even useless human beings like me.
No, you are very useful. Okay, so the four essentials, right? Four essentials. And the first one, the essential of identifying the object of negation. The essential of identifying the object of negation. Essential to identify the object of negation. Number two, essential of understanding the emptiness of the objects being one with its parts. Essential of understanding the emptiness of objects being one with its parts. The essential of understanding the emptiness of the objects being one with its parts. Essential number three, the essential of understanding the emptiness of the objects being different from its parts. Essential of understanding the emptiness of the objects being different from its parts. Then finally, the essential of understanding the pervasion. Essential of understanding the pervasion that anything which is empty. Essential of understanding the pervasion that anything which is empty of being one with or different from its parts. Essential understanding the pervasion that anything which is empty of being one with or different from its parts entails the emptiness of objective existence, of the object. The essential understanding the pervasion that anything which is empty of being one with or different from its parts entails the emptiness of objective existence of the object. Essential understanding the pervasion that anything which is empty of being one with or different from its parts entails the emptiness of objective existence of the object. Getting it?
Geshe, objects here mean phenomena.
I'm here to explain. Okay, the essential understanding, yes, Nita, whatever. trusted whatever you guys said. Thanks. I have to check what to mean that word is correct. Well, Vipinji trusted Nida just like anything. Thanks. Okay, the four essentials. Essential of understanding essential of identifying the object of negation, number one. What's number two? Essential of
understanding the emptiness of the object being one.
Essential of understanding the emptiness of the objects being one with its parts. Number three.
Essential of understanding the emptiness of object being different from its parts.
Okay, number four, Nida will read it. Yes.
Emptiness of understanding the provision that anything which is empty of being one with or different from its parts entails the emptiness of the objectiveness of the object.
No.
Objective existence of object.
So therefore, I did not trust. I did not trust, and Vipinji trusted. Emptiness, the word, essential of understanding the provision that anything which is empty of being one with or different from its parts entails the emptiness of objective existence of the object. Right? Okay, good. Final conclusion. Conclusion. Right, conclusion? Conclusion. Therefore, everything is empty of objective existence. And you can, after this you can write Nagarjuna said, since there is no phenomena which is not dependently originated, since there is no phenomena which is not dependently originated, since there is no phenomena which is not dependently originated, the second line, therefore there is no phenomena which is not empty of intrinsic existence. Since there is no phenomena which is not dependently originated, second line, therefore there is no phenomena which is not empty of intrinsic existence. Therefore there is no phenomena which is not empty of intrinsic existence. Therefore, there is no phenomena which is
Not empty of. Not empty.
It's double negation, right?
Yeah.
Double negation, triple negation. Ah,
There is no
It's okay,
phenomena
don't
which
negation
is not empty of intrinsic.
Every phenomena is empty of existence.
Yeah, it means everything is empty of intrinsic. Correct.
Correct?
Yes,
Double negation.
correct.
double negation. There is no phenomena which
All
is,
which is not empty of intrinsic existence.
there is no phenomena which is,
Not empty.
Not empty.
therefore there is no phenomena which is,
Not empty.
So it means
Which is
Correct.
it's correct. Existing.
how correct?
So there are three, two becomes all. So all phenomena is empty of intrinsic existence.
So how?
You take the two and it becomes positive.
Yes.
So all phenomena is empty of
No. So what are the two negative?
No phenomena and not empty.
Not empty.
No
Therefore
phenomena
there is no phenomena which is not,
not empty, correct. That's
which
what
is
it is.
not.
That's what it is.
So two negations plus empty, three negations. Three negations is negative.
Negative.
Two negations is
positive.
positive.
Yeah.
Okay. So it has how many negations there? Two or three?
Three.
What are the three?
No phenomena. Not
No phenomena which is not, and empty is also negative. So three negations. Three negations is negation. Two negations is positive. Okay, good. Okay, so we have to go through these four essentials. What's the first essential?
Identify effective negation.
Okay. Dorji, in the Vajradadu rooms, do you have luncheon? Luncheon. Huh?
I don't know.
You don't know? You are the owner of Vajradadu?
I don't know what is luncheon.
Okay. So to say whether it exists or not exists, you have to identify this first. You have to know what it is. So identify the object of negation. To negate that it does not exist, you have to know what is negated. Right? Emptiness of objective existence. There's no objective existence. To say there's no objective existence, you have to first of all know what is objective existence there.
This mic should be closer to your mouth actually. Yeah, I can't hear it properly just now.
Okay, you can hear it. Or are they from this side?
Yeah.
Yes, Narimanji, come closer. No, say on the floor, on the mattress. Niraji will come closer here.
It's much better now.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
So much better.
Still not best.
So much better. Yeah.
Not best.
So much better, still not best.
No, it's best now. It's okay.
Okay.
Last time I was struggling to write what you were saying.
Okay. Those here, can you hear?
Yes. Better.
Okay. There. Huh? Shivaji?
Best.
Wonderful. Very positive. The Asuresh is not too positive. Better. Okay, best. Okay. The first one is identify the object of negation. Say we speak about the emptiness of objective existence. We say that there's no objective existence. So to say that objective existence does not exist, we have to first know what do you mean by objective existence. To say that luncheon is not there in your house, right? You have to know what luncheon is, right? Shalman, is there luncheon in your house?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know.
Yes, don't say I don't know. Right? Say I don't know what luncheon is. Only then I can tell you whether it exists or not. Narimanji, is luncheon in your house?
Lunch.
Luncheon. Luncheon means elephant. Luncheon is elephant. Okay, Shalmali, there's luncheon.
No lunch in my house.
Very good. Narimanji, no luncheon. Okay, so now in order to say it does not exist, it exists, it does not exist, you have to identify what you are negating. That luncheon does not exist in my house. Right? That the Buddha does not have afflictions. That we do not have. We have compassion. Vipin has compassion, I know. So we do not have omniscience. Buddha does not have cognitive obscurations. We are so rich in cognitive obscurations. Buddha does not have cognitive obscurations. We do not have omniscience. You getting it? Okay. To say that we do not have omniscience, we have to know what omniscience is. To say that Buddha does not have cognitive obscurations, we should know what is cognitive obscurations. Likewise, to say that nothing exists objectively, we have to know what objective existence is. Okay. Object of, say, identify the object of negation. Okay. What's in my hand?
Mala.
Absence of mind.
Absence of mala, right? Right? So, Suraj is so fast. His name is Mala. Okay. So there's no mala, right?
Guruji was
Okay. Absence of mala, right? Okay. To say that there's no mala, what is negated? Mala is negated. So what is object of negation? Mala is object of negation, right? Okay. So likewise, when I say that there is no objective existence, what is object of negation? Objective existence is the object of negation. Okay. So now the next point is, what do you understand by objective negation? To say that the objective existence does not exist, you have to identify that. So the first line, the first essential says, essential of understanding the objective negation. You have to understand what objective negation is. Okay, tell me, what is objective negation in the context of emptiness?
Objective existence.
Objective existence, independent existence, intrinsic existence. Okay, tell me, what else? Objective existence, intrinsic existence, inherent existence, not eternal.
Inherent.
True existence, inherent existence, absolute existence, very good. Okay, so we have ultimate existence, yes. Okay, so we have enough of them. Okay, what are they? Objective existence, intrinsic existence, inherent existence, true existence, independent existence, absolute existence, ultimate existence. We have 7 of them, right? Still there are more, but 7 is good enough, right? Okay. Now next question. What do you understand by objective existence? What do you understand by objective existence? Just to say that objective existence or objective negation, that is not sufficient. We should be able to really understand what does it mean by objective existence. To say objective existence does not exist, we have to know what does it mean by objective existence. Only then we can say that it exists, it does not exist. Okay, anyone, what do you understand by objective existence?
An object which does not require to justify its existence by positing to something else, which is the ultimate thing.
I say it again.
An object.
An object.
Which for the justification of its existence does not require any other
agent.
Support. Yeah, any other agent.
For the justification of the object, the same the object, justification of which does not require another agent. That is known as objective existence. Very good.
A phenomena which is inherently existent. It is not dependent on causes and conditions.
Okay, a phenomenon which exists inherently, not having to depend on causes and conditions. Okay, I'm not saying good, bad. I'm not commenting on this. I'm just asking you. I'm seeking your opinions. I got 2 opinions already. More opinions. So what does it mean by objective existence to you? To say that it does not exist, we have to first identify that, right? If there's a tiger, there's no tiger in the soul. If there's a tiger, then the tiger should be like a big cat with striped lines on the body, right? So descriptions we give it, and then since it is not here, we say that tiger does not exist in the soul. Likewise, objective existence is not there, but if it does exist, what should it be like? This question, anyone?
It should not be subjective.
Something which exists, which should not be subjective, which is independent of the subject, which is not subjective. Very good. Anyone else?
It exists by itself. It can't be divided into any parts.
Okay, something which is existing by itself, which cannot be divided any further. Very good. But don't trust my very good. And when I say very good to Narimanji, very good here, it means that good attempt. It can be very good, real very good, or it can be that the moment because that you articulate that, whatever thought came to your mind, you express it very clearly. Okay, Chaitanya, you were saying something.
Something on which we put a label, any label.
So Chaitanya objective existence. You exist objectively.
Yes.
Oh, Chaitanya exists objectively. So thus far for the last, Chaitanya has to go back to 13th of December. Right? 13th December day 1 or 14th December day 1? 13th day 1, right? Chaitanya is going back. Right? So after learning about everything, no objective existence, no objective existence, right? Everything's like a dream. Studying all these things, 5 minutes, and says, yes, I exist objectively. Okay, who else exists objectively? Who else exists objectively? Suraji? No. Then? Niraji? No. Audrey? No. Okay, even Nariman says that I don't exist objectively. And nobody exists objectively. So then how come that he exists objectively? Right? So then exists objectively? Not.
Not according to
What we
if
have
we
learned.
understand. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. According to what we learned, I don't exist objectively. But if you ask me personally, I would say that yes, I still see it's not subjectively real. That's very true. Right? Okay. So my question is, according to what we've learned, be kind to me. Right? Okay, so then tell me, is it objective or not? According to what we've learned? No. Very good. Okay, now what do you understand by objective existence? Anyone? So we already got a few answers. So one said something which exists inherently by not dependence on causes and conditions, one. And then something which exists as a sort of entity which cannot be split into parts. And
An object that has substance and characteristics, maybe something to describe it.
okay, something which an object possesses substance there with characteristics to describe this object, and then Nariman said there's something which is independent of subjectivity, right? And who else gives answer? The Nida already said it, right? Says something which exists, independent, exists, which cannot be divided into parts. Any other? Yes?
Something that exists from its own side.
Or something which exists from its own side? Okay, good. Anyone else? Nida, you have second thought? Yes.
Something that is permanent and nothing outside it can change or affect it.
Okay, something which is permanent and nothing outside can affect it, change it. Very good.
It never decays or dies, ultimately.
Something which never
Dies.
decays or dies. Okay. Anyone else?
Something which is merely labeled, and something which is neither the, something which depends on the parts, does not depend on its parts. It is merely labeled, either one or all parts. It does not depend on one or all parts. It is merely labeled.
Merely labeled. So the merely labeled does not exist.
It doesn't exist truly. It doesn't exist by
So
its own power.
merely labeled is the meaning of objective existence. I'm asking for what is objective existence. I don't know that what is absence of objective existence. I don't know.
Everything is merely labeled.
Huh?
All objects are merely labeled.
Okay, so generally speaking, all objects are, the reality is that everything is merely labeled, but if there's objective existence, it should be something which is not labeled. Right? So instead of merely labeled, you should be saying there's something which is not labeled. Something which does not depend on parts, and it is not labeled. It exists, comes to existence without being labeled. Very good. Okay, we got many answers. From this, it invariably takes me to talk about the three levels of dependent origination. 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 Number one, dependent origination of results, dependence on causes. Dependent origination of results, dependence on causes. Dependent origination of results, dependence on causes, number one. Number two, dependent origination of the wholes, dependence on parts. Dependent origination of the wholes, W-H-O-L-E, wholes, dependence on parts. Number two. Number three, dependent origination of dependence on mere mental designation / imputation. Dependent origination of dependence on mere mental designation / imputation. First one, dependent origination of the results, dependence on causes. Number two, dependent origination of the wholes, dependence on parts. Number three, dependent origination of dependence on mere mental designation / imputation. Okay, good. Three. These three are put in the order of progressively becoming subtler. These two are put in the order of progressively becoming subtler. They are subtler. Progressively become subtler. The third one is the subtlest. The first one is the grossest. So, to understand emptiness, only if you understand the third one, you understood emptiness. Only if you understand the third one, you understand emptiness. Just by understanding the first and second, you are not qualified to have understood emptiness. Getting it? Okay. Now, if I say that, okay, there's nothing which exists. There's no. Okay. Say. No, the flower disappeared.
There.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. This flower, does it exist by dependence on cause and conditions?
Yes.
Hey.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. If I say that this flower does not depend on, this flower is empty of independence from its causes and conditions. Right? Okay, let's say I say that this flower exists independently of causes and conditions. True, false?
False.
False. False means that this flower is empty of independence of the causes and conditions. You getting it? So you reject that the flower is independent of the causes and conditions. You reject that. So what's the object of negation? Independent of causes and conditions. This flower being independent of causes and conditions, this is object of negation. Right? By negating this, do you get emptiness?
No,
Because parts of the flower.
independent.
Okay, so with this, for this, which level of dependent origination have you understood? First one. By understanding first level of dependent origination, accordingly you understand emptiness. There is not the real emptiness. This is a gross emptiness. So who said the object of negation is the object existing independent of the causes and conditions? Who said it? Huh? Which means that is not the object of negation. This is very gross object of negation. Okay, now if I say that this flower does not have parts, correct, not correct? Hey, false. So you said, no, that's not correct. This flower has parts. So you say that this flower is empty of not having parts. Empty of not having parts. What's the object of negation? Not having parts. Not having parts cannot be split into parts. Right? Okay, there's object of negation. When you negate that, do you get emptiness? Do you get the subtle emptiness? Why not? Yes, Shalima? You only understood the second level of dependent origination. To understand the subtle emptiness, you have to understand the third level of dependent origination. So, who said the object of negation is an entity which cannot be split into the parts? Who said it? Okay. So, this object of negation, is that the object of negation in the context of the subtle emptiness? No, this is gross. So, this is how you're getting it. So, this is how we have to understand emptiness in its subtle form. By understanding empty dependent origination on 3 different levels, we can also see emptiness on 3 different levels. To see emptiness, it should be the third one, the subtlest one. You're getting it? Now tell me, what is object of negation as per the subtle emptiness? That the flower is empty of dependence on mere, that the flower, object of negation is is what? That the flower is not merely designated by the mind. Not merely designated. Is it designated by the mind or not? That is designated by the mind, but the object of negation is that it is not designated by the independent of destination by the mind. That is the object of negation. You reject this, then you get emptiness. If I say that this flower exists independently from its own side, that it does not exist by mental destination, correct? Not correct? Huh? What did I say? No, what did I say? That this flower exists from its own side, not being designated by the mind. Do you agree with me or not? Let me say this again. I'm saying that this flower exists not being designated, independent. This flower exists independent of mental designation. Correct, not correct?
Not correct.
If not correct, then what would you say? That it is not
Independent of mental.
that this is not independent of mental designation. What's the object of negation then?
Mental.
Independence of mental destination, not mental destination. Mental destination you negate it, then you get the independence of mental destination, right? Then you get object of negation. Okay, so the object of negation is what? Independence of mental destination. When you see that's object of negation, then what you get is the final emptiness. You're getting it? Very good. Okay. Now, finally, what exactly does mean by objective existence? Okay, we got all the objective existence. What exactly is objective negation, objective existence? We got many answers from the audience. So, which of the answer you think is correct after learning the three levels of dependent origination?
Can we say that the object is not existing in the subjective?
Okay. That the object does not exist subjectively. That the object does not exist subjectively. That is the object of negation. Right? Very good. So who said this before Suresh said it? Before we describe about before we explain the three levels of dependent origination, who said it?
I think
Nariman said it, right? And Audrey, respect Nariman Suman Aryan Nagarjuna, right? Audrey said Aryan Nagarjuna, right? So Nariman is respected to such a level, Aryan Nagarjuna. Okay, Aryan Nagarjuna has said it. So in this class we have the Narimanji who said it, right? Wonderful, amazing. So something which exists independently of subjectivity. Something which exists independent of subjectivity, that is object of negation. You reject it and you say everything is subjective, nothing is objective. That is the subtle emptiness. You getting it? Okay. Now, one thing I'd like to share with you, which is so important. Okay, tell me, you agree with me or not? Everything is subjectively existent.
Yes.
Narimanji, you agree with me?
Everything is not subjective. Some things like Buddha are not subject to our, it exists, and we don't challenge that.
Okay, so don't be too afraid. This is one thing which is so something unique of the Buddha's teachings. Yeah? Don't worry. But then, say for example, the Buddha does not exist subjectively. Even the Buddha is also subjectively imputed. No problem. Only problem is that when you say something sarcastically, right? The moment we say something sarcastically, even if any opinions can be shared, but the only thing which may go a little wrong is that when you, in your mind, negative thought is there, and then say you say it in a sarcastic way, that is not encouraged, even in Buddhism. Otherwise, sincere thoughts, any thought you can, bring up. Don't worry that this is for blasphemy. You don't worry about it. But even the Buddha exists subjectively, yes, right? Right? Even Buddha exists subjectively. Everything exists. Buddha himself said it. So from this we're going to read it. It says that the this is the Aranigarjuna's word. Since Audrey is very fond of Aranigarjuna, right? This is Aranigarjuna's word. What he said is that the neither aggregates no different from the aggregates. Aggregates don't depend on him. He doesn't depend on the aggregates. Nor the Tathagata possesses the aggregates. Where is the Tathagata? Tathagata meaning the Buddha. Where is the Buddha? So questioning the objectivity of the Buddha. Right? So these are all the permissible in Buddhism. No worry that, oh, it may be blasphemous. We don't worry about that. Okay, so the point is, everything is subjectively existent. Don't forget it. Everything is subjectively existent. Yes, Shyamji?
We have a conviction that God exists, not subjected to our conjectures, objectively existent.
Okay.
Brahma Tattva we call.
Yes, yes. Okay, so what we do, this is a very interesting discussion. First we finish the four essentials, right? And then there are many more materials, but we can go through this comparative studies about concept of God, about the concept of ultimate reality, right? Whether or not this is ultimate. You're getting it? God in the form of ultimate, emptiness in the form of ultimate, the comparison. It can be a very interesting discussion. I hope we'll get a little time to do that. Okay, first we'll finish this. Now what we learn is that if everything is subjectively real, then the object of negation is what? That things don't exist subjectively. That becomes object of negation. That is, you negate this, then you negate this, you get emptiness. You getting it? Okay. So for that matter, what is very important, okay, I promise to tell you one thing. When I speak about everything is subjective, right? In the Buddhist philosophy, there are two very popular concepts of subjectivity. Two very popular concepts of subjectivity, right? That the everything is subjective. There are two very popular concepts of subjectivity. Yes? Yes? Anyone who can guess what these two could be?
Subjectivity of the object and subjectivity of the person who says this.
Mind.
Yeah, the mind that.
Okay, let me give you. Let me make it clearer. So because I was not too clear. So when you speak about that everything is subjective, there are two very popular opinions, views, two different philosophies, right? Two different philosophies. Yes.
Mind only school and.
Mind only school and Madhyamika school. Very good. So these two schools, Madhyamika, within Madhyamika there are two. What are they? Prasanga Madhyamika and Svatantrika Madhyamika. These two schools. So these two, let us put them together. Madhyamika and Chittamatra. Both say that everything is subjective. You getting it? Everything is subjective. And how these two schools understand subjectivity is very different. Right? How these two schools understand the subjectivity is very different, and many people fail to see this distinction. Because of which they say that, many scholars they say that Chittamatra philosophy, emptiness, and Madhyamika emptiness is no difference, it's the same. Because both speak about subjectivity. This is where people go wrong when they could not distinguish between the subjectivity as posited by the two schools. You're getting it? Big professors who have been highly respected as a great philosopher. Once I I thought that he's really very good in the Buddhist philosophy. And when talking about it, he said that the Chittamatra philosophy and Madhyamika philosophy is the same. And I said, how? He said they both accept subjectivity. Okay, this is where they're going wrong. Subjectivity, we have to see the nuances. There is a difference in positing the subjectivity. Okay, how many are ready? Raise your hands. You ready? Not ready? Very ready, yeah. Okay, so subjectivity, there are two. Okay, right? Just I will share you my thoughts, and then you decide, okay, if you believe in this concept, that has a connotation of subjectivity. Oh, it does not have connotation of subjectivity. Then you decide. Okay, let me say, subject is mind, and object that the mind perceives is the object. Subject, object. Now subjectivity means that things exist by the power of this mind, subject. Agree with me or not?
Yes.
Good. Now, let me say that, let me give an example. Say the mirror, and the reflection in the mirror. Mirror is analogy for the mind, subject, and the reflection mirror is analogy of the object. So this reflection is nothing but the nature of the mirror. You agree with me?
Yeah.
This reflection is nothing but the say created by this mirror. You agree with me?
Yes.
So therefore this reflection is nothing but the subjective, the mirror. You agree with me?
Yes.
The dream. Dream is like the contents of the dream. Dream contents, they are like the reflection, and the dreaming mind is like the mirror. You agree with me?
Yes.
Okay, so even the dream is also subjective. Yes, no? Huh?
Yes.
Yes.
Dream contents is a subjective. Dream goals is subjective, which means it comes into being by the power of the subject. Yes, no?
That you could say the first line itself. That you could say the first line itself.
Say it again.
That can be said at the first line itself. Dreams are subjective in nature.
Okay, which means that you agree that that is the meaning of subjectivity. Very good. So Chitta Mantra says that everything is like a dream, right? Everything that you see around, you experience, they are like dream. Whether you agree with, you don't agree, it doesn't matter. If what they say is correct, if it's like dream, just say dream is nothing but the reflection in the dreaming mind. There's no external reality there. You getting it? There's no external reality there, but in the dream you see it's external. When you wake up, you realize there's no external, it's just the reflection in the mind. So the dream contents, they are just subjective. You agree with me or not?
Yes.
If you agree with this, then you are agreeing that Chitta Mantra philosophy is also purely subjective. Subjectivity is the Chitta Mantra's philosophy. You agree with me?
Yes.
Okay, very good. In other words, Chitta Mantra says there's no external world. Chitta Mantra school, my own school says that there's no external world. Then what we're seeing all this external world? This is like seeing the world in the dream. You getting it?
That I don't see.
No.
I don't see the extension.
Exactly. So you don't see the extension, which means that it is not external.
Yeah, I mean,
The world is not external. What we see as external is not actually external. It's not the extension.
it is. I mean, it is external, not
Okay.
extension.
Okay, so let's say in the dream, say, say you dream of being in Pune city, while you are in Rajagada center, but you dreamt of being in Pune city, right? Oh, these buildings there, this is my house. You see them as external, or you see them as your own mind in your dream? How do you see that?
Own mind, external.
In your dream.
Yes.
In your dream, do you see them as your mind, or you see them as external?
I see them as external.
Very good. You see them as external. Right? When you wake up, you realize that this is not external. It's just the extension of your mind. You getting it? So this is what Chitta Mantra is saying. What we see now as external, that is deception. This is what they are saying. If what they are saying is correct, then what we see as external, this is just subjective. You agree with me? If what they say is correct.
If they say it's correct, then it is true.
Very good.
But that is,
No. Whether this correct, not correct, this we have to discuss later.
yes.
If what is correct, then everything is subjective. You agree with me?
Yes.
Good. So here, according to Chitta Mantra, subjectivity is understood as absence of external reality. For Chittamatra. For Chittamatra, subjectivity, everything is subjective in the sense that nothing exists externally. This is one. Now Prasangika, particularly Prasangika. Prasangika's version of subjectivity is again very profound. Okay, how many of us watched movie in the movie theater? Except for Narimanji. How many of us watched movie in the movie theater?
I watch.
Okay, so which means we all watch movie in the movie theater. Say that you're watching a movie here. Where is this movie coming from? Projector. Where's the projector? Behind you. You getting it? Projector is behind you. Okay. When you wake up, the dream house and your dreaming mind, are these two separated by distance?
No.
When you wake up, when you are in the dream, you see the difference. You see the distance. When you wake up, is there a difference? Is there a distance between your dreaming mind and the dreamt? When you wake up, is there the distance?
There's no question about distance. It doesn't exist actually.
Huh?
This is a very confusing question. After I wake up, I don't know how I remember my dream.
No, do you remember some of the dreams? Not all.
Yeah, sometimes.
Sometime, whatever dream you remembered, in that dream, the dreaming mind, you remember the dreaming mind? You remember the dreamt house, dream house, and the dreaming mind, both you remember when you wake up? Sometimes. So when you wake up, the dreaming mind and the dream house, was there a space distance? No space distance.
Both are unreal to me.
No space distance. No, be very precise, otherwise I get confused. Right? There's no space difference. Because there's no space gap, these two, they merge. You're getting it? So this is known as absence of externality. Externality means there's a space between the object and subject. When these two merge, there's the absence of externality. So this is Chittamatra philosophy. This is also one understanding of subjectivity. Wow, seriously amazing. This is also one understanding of subjectivity. Now Prasangika. Mathematics, particularly Prasangika, say the movie. Movie that you're watching, where's the movie? On the screen. Movie's on the screen. Where is the movie coming from? From the projector. So the projector is the analogy for subject. So the movie is coming from the subject. So the movie is subjective or objective? Subjective. Very good. Movie and the subject, right? Movie and the movie projector, is there a space gap? Yes. No space gap?
Yes.
Is there a space gap or not? There is a movie on the screen. There is a projector behind you. What is behind you, what is in front of you, there is a gap or no gap? There's a gap. So, what we said that the movie is subjective, it's coming from the projector, not from the object, it's from the subject, it's subjective, but still the object and subject, there's a gap. So, Prasangika's version of subjectivity is subject and object, there's a gap. There's a gap, still it's subjective. For Chittamatra, subjectivity means subject object is to merge, there is no gap. You getting it? Okay. So Prasangika, while accepting everything is subjective, they still accept externality. Prasangika, while they accept subjectivity, they still accept externality. Whereas for Chittamatra, if you accept subjectivity, there's no room for accepting externality. This is the difference. Yes, Dorji?
Does that mean the gap means there's a medium?
Yes, literally there's a
That's
gap.
what they're saying, there's a medium in between the projection and the projecting.
A medium meaning there's a space gap.
Like ether.
Okay, that is not necessary.
Okay.
Medium in the form of ether, whatever, that's not necessary. Just a space.
space is also an object.
Yes, of course. Yes.
So they do believe there is some object.
Oh, yes, of course. Because that is known as the externality.
Okay.
Wow, Shalman is amazing.
Geshe-la, the space in mind-only school, the space they point to, or if there is a space for them, it's non-composite space.
Okay, this is a good question. Wow, Chaitanya has put him into complication. Okay, space. For Chaitanya, the space, is there composite space or non-composite space? Both. Both are there. I don't mean to say that one is both. No, one cannot be both. One cannot be permanent as well as impermanent. That's not possible. So space that we are seeing, right? That is the composite space. And then this space has the characteristic of the absence of obstruction. Absence, all absences are negative and permanent, right? So that space that we are seeing, this is a composite impermanent. And this space, one of the characteristics is that it is absent of obstruction. That quality, absence of obstruction, that is a non-composite space, permanent. Right? Both are there, according to Chiddamatra. If Chaitanya could ask this, the next question, then I'll be very likely I'll be in problem. She does not, luckily she does not ask me.
For that, I have to go for a personal retreat.
This is a question, I'm at stake. I answered it. If she asks me the next question to this answer that I've given, I'll very likely I'll be in problem, right? So luckily she did not ask me. I'm protected.
She may not ask that dangerous question, but I can ask a very simple question.
Yes, yes.
So this space again exists here in the
Everything is coming from the mind.
composite, non-composite.
Composite, non-composite, everything is coming from the mind.
So they deny
Space is
some.
not a projection of the mind, right?
According to
Prasangika.
Prasanga, everything is imputed by mind. Third level of dependent origination.
Okay.
Everything is imputed by the
So
mind.
although there is a space in between,
Even the space is also the imputed by the mind.
but it's still an object.
Of course.
Oh.
Subjectively.
This is known as subjectively existent object.
So it is the only subjectively existent object in everything.
Yeah.
Everything is subjectively existent object.
So are they saying there is some substance out there, the Chittamatrans, or are they saying that everything is created out here?
Chiddamatra Prasangika.
Chittamatra.
Chiddamatra. Okay, this is a good question. What is the question? What's the question?
Is there any substance out there?
Out there, out. What's the opposite of out? In. For Chiddamatra, everything is in, there's no out.
What does it mean?
Huh? In the dream, Suraj will ask me, what's out there? I will say that out there's nothing out there, it is your dream. Suraj will disagree with me. Only when Suraj wakes up, oh, what he said in the dream is correct, there's no out there, right? Would you still say that after waking up, would you still say that out there in the dream? Would you say that? No, because in the dream there's no out, everything is in, just mind. Right? Okay, Nita.
Geshe-la, is it that the Prasangika philosophy sees the imputation of the mind as separate from the mind and not as one, unlike the Chittamatra?
Okay, imputation meaning imputed object.
Yeah, imputed object.
Imputed object as separate from the mind, not like the way Chittamatra sees the two things as merged. Very good, yes.
So one is dependent on mind.
Both are dependent on mind. Everything is dependent on mind. How everything is dependent on mind? There are two levels. There are two levels, yes. One is where the object and subject, these two are merged. The subject object, there is a space gap.
So is it possible to, in the merging, is it possible to know
Merging is
the
according to
mind,
Chittamatra.
which is when it is merged according to Chittamatra, is it possible to know which one is the mind and which one is the projection?
That's easy. For example, when you look at this flower, The flower, according to Chittamatra, the flower and a mind seeing the flower, these two are merged. But this is not a mind, this is a flower. This is a mind, this is not a flower. You can make this distinction. That is, you can think about the mirror and the reflection in the mirror. Mirror is very stable, reflection is not stable. Yet, these two are mixed. You getting it? These two are mixed. Mirror is very stable, but the reflection not stable. Any object, you change the object, the reflection changes. But the mirror doesn't change. The mirror remains stable. Right? Yet these two are mixed. Okay, very interesting questions. Yes, Elaine?
Does the projector in the, that subject in the Madhyamika, Prasangika Madhyamika exist separately?
Yes. Separate meaning?
Independently.
Oh,
No.
separately.
No,
and
sorry,
is-
sorry. Yeah.
No, it's fine. So therefore, right from the beginning, we said what? We should be good.
Articulation.
We should be good. Wow, amazing. Naraman, you are just amazing. Okay, we should be good listener. Which means I should be listening to Elaine very well, right? He said, this is separate. Then I just took for granted that separate means separate. I did not, I thought that no, you said it correctly, I should be good listener. Right? So then I asked, what do you mean separate? You said independent. Then I said no. Right? So this way we should be very good listeners. What do you mean by separate? So I didn't know from the words, I came to know sense from her body language. From the environment, I said that these two are separate, right? These two separate, I said yes. When I said yes, then the Elaine's body language gave me the impression that, okay, which means Prasanga accepts independence. Yeah. Then I said, what do you mean separate? Instantly I asked, she's independent, right? Then I said no. Okay, so these two are not independent, yet they exist as separate in the form of object subject separated by distance, separated by space. Even the space is also mentally imputed. Right? Even the space is also mentally imputed, yet there's a space between the two. Object is mentally imputed, subject is mentally imputed, space is mentally imputed, yet these operate so nicely.
I'm going to be greedy, there are two questions.
Yes.
First is, does it make a difference functionally in the two? Like, functionally, is there a difference if we are trying to now go on the path? Functionally, is there a difference between the two to understand dependent origination and emptiness? Is there functionally a difference?
What
the
do?
Wow, okay.
What do?
What do, yes.
Chittamatra and
You say so, two
To
philosophers.
the understanding of
No, Suresh is asking, which two?
the
Prasangika Chittamatra or dependent origination emptiness?
No, to understand dependent origination and emptiness on the path, is there a functional difference between the two, Prasangika view and Chittamatra?
Okay.
We should be good listeners again.
The second question, can I ask it directly? I don't want to ask it. So therefore, dependent origination is also part of our ignorance. Is it?
Okay, dependent origination is not part of the ignorance. Dependent origination comes into being by the imputation of our ignorance. It is not part of ignorance.
It's a byproduct of our ignorance.
Not byproduct. It comes into being by the imputation through the ignorance.
Oh, okay. So it's the other side of the coin. It's connected, but it cannot exist separately.
Okay,
It
so-
cannot exist separately, right?
Okay, which separate? Again separate, two separate,
Dependent
right?
origination and ignorance, they cannot exist separately, like
Dependent origination and emptiness.
no, and ignorance.
Ignorance itself is a part of dependent origination.
I think he means knowledge of
Okay.
dependent origin.
Huh?
Now that's right. Because otherwise it's
Okay.
sounding dependent origination comes into being
By the power of
by the
imputation of the ignorance. This is a very scary concept, yet the answer is true. But because this is brought up by Rahulji, I have to say something. If it's not brought from the audience, I will not say it at this stage. I'll say it only after 10 years to you. Because that is brought up, I have to say the answer. Right? It's very scary. Right? Dorji was totally disagreed, right? Yeah, I can see that. Okay, so first we have to study the four essentials. Let's study the four essentials. Many things will be cleared very easily. You getting it? Many things will be cleared very easily. Okay, so so there is saying somebody is not too happy. The dad is not happy. From the facial expression, I can see that. Right. Okay.
The first question was
Which question?
functionality.
Functionally, how is it different?
The difference. Okay. Good philosophy, whatever philosophy, not necessarily Buddhist, non-Buddhist, whatever. A good philosophy, a profound philosophy, is a philosophy which talks about the philosophy which is very divergent from the ordinary people's thinking, very divergent and go too deep, at the same time conform to the functionality of the world. If this is happening, this is a very good philosophy. Whereas the philosophies that you go too deep to say something which is very different from ordinary people saying, at the same time, you cannot conform to the functional world. That is a horrible philosophy. For example, solipsism. Solipsism, there is one philosophy known as solipsistic. Right? Which says that nothing really exists. Everything is just your thought projection. Nothing exists. They don't say nothing exists objectively. No, they don't say this. Nothing exists. Then what is all these things? These are just illusion. This is a disaster. What they are saying is totally very different from the ordinary people's thinking. At the same time, they cannot conform to the functional world. So therefore, this is not good philosophy. So good philosophy is where you could go deep into the philosophy, which may diverge from ordinary people's thinking, yet conform to the functionality so well. That is good philosophy. So now, Chittamatra, Madhyamika, both were taught by the Buddha to conform to the functionality, to conform to the law of karma. What is functionality? In the end, functionality is the law of karma, right? Only when we see the karma in a proper way, we function in a nice way. We don't create problems in the world, right? We say we behave nicely, we have been kind with others, we don't harm others. Okay, so Chittamatra, Prasangika both conform to the functionality of the world. And yet, Prasangika would say that if you follow Chittamatra philosophy, you will contradict many of the functional world. So, whereas if you unbiasedly follow the two philosophies, we see that Prasangika philosophy is just amazing, right? It's simply say you follow the Prasangika philosophy, not blindly through reasoning, then you see that the functional world, you can easily account for the functional world, so with great ease. With other philosophers, any other philosophy, you go into philosophy, it can be deep. The moment you go to the functional world, you cannot account for the functional world with ease. There's some, say, incompatibility between the two, the philosophy and the functional world. Whereas Prasangika is the only one where you can see the compatibility, you can see the conformity between to such a seamless and effortless the compatibility is seen there between the two. Okay, good. Now we have to follow the four essentials. Before the four essentials, okay, we are talking about the what? Subjectivity. There are two. Subjectivity, where the subjectivity in the form of in the form of that everything, the subjectivity, number one, that everything is the nature of the mind. Number one. This is Chittamatra philosophy. Subjectivity, where everything is the nature of the mind. This is the subjectivity as presented by Chittamatra. Subjectivity, where everything is the nature of the mind. Number two, subjectivity, where everything is the projection of the mind. Where everything is the projection of mind. The first one example is the mirror and the reflection in the mirror. Mirror and the reflection in the mirror. Second one is the movie and the movie projector. Prasangika. The second one is Prasangika. The example is movie and the movie projector. And if you want to know more about the movie and movie projector, you consult Sumit. Right? Yeah, Sumit is expert in this area. Okay. Tell me, between these two levels, two kinds of subjectivity, what difference do you see? Tell me. What difference? I'm not talking about the similarity. I'm talking about the difference. What difference do you see between the two?
One is externally present, other one is not externally present.
Okay, one, the externality can be posited, other externally cannot be posited. Okay, which one is the with externality? Prasangika, very good. Prasangika is the one who accepts externality, and Chittamatra is one who rejects externality. Very good. Now tell me, what is the similarity between these two? Both accepts that everything is subjective. That is the similarity. Very good. Okay. Now we are doing we're doing what? The four seals. Four essentials, right? There are so many fours. Right? Four noble truths, four seals, then the four mesh poles, four powers. Okay. Four essentials. The first one, we are doing the first one. Essential of identifying the occurring negation. So there, this is so important. Say, you think that you're following the, okay, tell me, from what we've learned thus far, which philosophy, say, the philosophy which we learned thus far, we didn't learn as much, we learned the Chittamatra and Prasangika. Of the two, which do you think that resonates more closely with your thinking? Okay, raise your hands. Prasangika, raise your hands. Chittamatra, raise your hands. Okay, Chittamatra too. Okay, Rahulji and me.
Not sure.
Not sure.
Okay, those who say not too sure, how to do the master's course and diploma course. Okay. So now, let's say that, theoretically speaking meaning that from textually speaking, Prasangika philosophy is the highest. Highest. Okay, some people are not too happy with that thing. When we speak about this highest, this lower hierarchy. Okay, the idea is if you speak about this person's higher, this person's lower, then this is hierarchy. This is totally irrelevant. Whereas the philosophy-wise, we can say 2 plus 2. The very simple mathematics and the calculus. Calculus is more complicated. Right? You should not be feel offended. Calculus is more complicated. Relativity theory is more complicated. Quantum physics is more complicated than Newtonian physics. That's guaranteed. Right? Or again, hierarchy. That is too much. Okay, so the point is that textually speaking, Prasangika philosophy is very subtle as compared to Chittamatra philosophy. So later on we have to study both, and then you decide. You decide. Don't just say that, oh, Chittamatra, so for me Chittamatra makes sense, right? And then just ignoring Prasangika. or some just study Prasangika, oh, Prasanga is very good for me, the Chitta it doesn't make sense. In this approach, you're being very biased. With biases, you cannot see the objectivity. Right? And the whole purpose of philosophy is to see the objectivity, see what is really the object. Okay. So for the let's say your mind is okay. Now I have no time. So my life is so short. Now I have to study the Prasanga directly. So in the pursuit of Prasanga philosophy, when you actually come to the conclusion after the 4 essentials conclusion, what conclusion you will reach? Whether Prasangika conclusion or Chitta conclusion, we never know. Although you follow Prasanga philosophy, but you may reach Chitta conclusion. What decides that? That is determined by how refined you do the first essential. First essential, right? How you identify the object of negation. If you identify object of negation very gross, emptiness that you get is going to be very gross. If the object identification that you identify is very subtle, the emptiness that you get becomes very subtle. So that part makes the whole difference. The first essential makes the whole difference. We should be very careful right from the beginning. Identify object of negation. Okay. So because now object of negation, for that there is what is known as 2 things. One is maximalist redundancy and minimalist inadequacy. We have to avoid these 2 extremes. One is maximalist redundancy. Number 2 is minimalist inadequacy. Maximalist redundancy and minimalist inadequacy. Okay, if somebody asks me, oh, what is the object of negation? You are talking about emptiness. What is the object of negation? Because to understand emptiness, we have to understand 4 essentials. The first one is to identify object of negation. What is object of negation? Why are you negating? When you say emptiness, you are negating something. What are you negating? If I say that, oh, we are negating phenomena. We are negating phenomena. Phenomena is object of negation. Is it correct or not correct? Why not? Why not? The phenomenon is not object of negation?
Objective existence of phenomena that we are negating.
Sorry?
Objective existence of phenomena is
No. So I'm giving an answer. So just correct me, right? I said that phenomena is negated. So what's the problem?
Minimalist inadequacy.
So that is minimalist inadequacy. How? No, don't jump to technical problem.
Phenomena comes from the mind, and you are negating the subjective mind, and it comes to Chitta Matra that space is lost between mind and the object.
So what's wrong? The phenomenon is rejected. So what's the problem?
It's nihilism.
It's
nihilism.
How?
Phenomena is rejected entirely.
So how is nihilism?
It's more. You're saying that the phenomena doesn't exist.
For example, if I say that this is not a chocolate, how is it nihilism? It's not chocolate, it's fact. Yeah. So phenomena doesn't exist. Phenomena is negated. So what's wrong?
Absence
What's
of
the problem?
chocolate exists.
Huh? Yes, absence of phenomena exists. So what's wrong? Hey.
We are negating the wrong thing.
Who?
It's not phenomena that we are supposed to be negating.
Okay, so Ilinj is more courageous.
Yes.
So phenomena should not be negated. Why not? Because phenomena does exist. Phenomena does exist, right? If phenomena does not exist, you are in a way saying that karma does not exist. The world doesn't exist, right? Nothing exists. right? Okay, so if I say nothing exists, then what happens? Then I go into nihilism. You getting it? Okay, so therefore phenomena, if you say phenomena is object of negation, you are the object of negation, you are, say, making it, you are exaggerating, you are saying, what the, say for example,
You're magnifying it.
uh,
You're magnifying it.
you are magnifying the object of negation. Right? What is to be negated?
It's more specific.
What is to be negated? What is to be, you are actually negating more than what you should be negating. You are magnifying the object of negation, right? We are negating more. That is maximalist. Maximalist redundancy. Redundancy meaning that what is not to be negated, that you are negating it. It is redundant, right? You are negating what is not to be negated. So you are negating more than what is to be negated. This is maximalist redundancy. If you say that, okay, what is to be negated? Objective existence of the flower. Correct, not correct?
Yes.
If I say